Hey folks, this is Ben Gessel. How's it going? I decided to make a quick video here about natural disasters and kind of emergency situations. Now, my aunt, my mom's sister, a while back she sent all this information out to family, my parents, and everybody, a whole bunch of folks that was very in depth. Personally, I don't think. I mean, it was really in depth. Personally, I'm not saying that was all unimportant. I guess what I'm trying to say is that um, there were so many things. There's like 13 different emergency packs or 13 different lists, I guess you'd say, of emergency things that had to do with different situations. And I don't know, I kind of see that as being a little bit overkill. And of course, it depends on where you live. What kinds of natural disasters most likely? Here in Washington State, in Western Washington, most likely situations. I mean, basically, with volcanic eruption, all you can do is get the heck out of Dodge, because that lava is gonna destroy anything in its path. Um, and the aftermath is just gonna make things really cloudy, and you want, a mask if you can get one, like a breathing mask, that sort of thing. But volcanic eruptions are not, at least for where I live, they're not really a big deal. Not so much. It's more earthquake, possibly fire or flood, but really more it's an earthquake. The biggest thing that could happen is an earthquake. And maybe, of course, civil unrest and stuff. But, there's other things that could happen, like avalanches, tornadoes, hurricanes, of course, nuclear holocaust, of course, unrest, riots, ongoing stuff, stores being sold out of stuff, plus, big, huge wildfires and stuff, and I mentioned floods and earthquakes. So we're going to go through some of this stuff, and hopefully this is useful to you guys. So in the event of an earthquake, of course, if it's 6.0 to 7.0, it's not a big deal. And, earthquakes, though, I have experienced an earthquake before, not a big one, but they just come. They just come when you least expect it sometimes, and hopefully you're not in the shower or something like that, right? So in the event of an earthquake, it really does come down to what do you do right at that moment. And it's good to, because we do remember, I don't know if you guys remember in school, if you, at least when I was in school, we did this stop, drop, and roll. That's if you're on fire. You got under your desk. If that earthquake alarm went off, you went under your desk and you made sure that you were all fully under your desk and waited till the drill was totally done. Right. Anyway, so we're gonna go into more detail what happens in different kinds of earthquakes, but this is most likely what's gonna, happen. Again, a 6.0 to 7.0, not a big deal. Just run outside and wait for the rolling ground beneath you to die down a bit. 7.0 to 8.0, you get outside. He's right then and there. Get away from the trees. Get away from power, lines and stuff. Get away from all that stuff. Or if you're inside, get under something really freaking sturdy. Like that's not going to collapse. Because you have to count on something being really, really sturdy. Because that you never know that if the roof goes down, it could kill you. Get really hurt. So just depends. Depends on if you're close to the door. Get outside. Get away from trees. and get away from power lines. And that's, someone says, "Oh, get under the doorway because the doorway is gonna, be pretty sturdy." Well, I think it's better just to be outside. Just depends. If it gets to the, the 8.0 to 9.0 range, that's a freaking big deal. I mean, same deal as 7.0 to 8.0. It's very likely that you're going to die or be seriously injured at that point. I mean, we won't even talk about going over 9.0. That's a nightmare. That's almost certain death, but a lot of times it's a big flipping deal. In case you're wondering if you have any stored water, the stored water will only be salvageable in a really, really sturdy or tough container. Okay. All the other preparations for emergencies. Sorry, there's a little bit of a shadow here, so it's hard to see this. Let me see if I can reposition myself here. Sorry. This is a little bit. There we go. Okay. Try to. Okay. All the other preparations that you have for emergencies, it's going to depend on the aftermath of that earthquake, what the earthquake spares. Because when the ground is going nuts, I mean, your whole house, whatever your dwelling is going to be, it's just going to, whatever. I didn't mention mudslides either. Mudslides are another possibility, but I don't live in the area that could happen. That's another possibility. Rock slides and stuff. So it all depends on how much is salvageable. So if your emergency stuff is in very, very secure containers, like a rubbernecks, then you'll probably have those. It's a good chance you'll have those things. If it's not, you might not. So maybe consider buying some rubberneck, containers and putting your emergency stuff in that stuff. So only the canned food that fits outside of a rubberneck, maybe, but only canned food and dehydrated stuff, right? Anything if it's in rubberneck, anything in any food or water in a rubberneck container, that kind of bin might make it through the earthquake, etc. Perishables are very iffy outside of that stuff. They might, of course, the power will be out most likely in a serious situation, so they could go bad. So it's wise to have some food storage, or to if you don't have a whole bunch of food storage, to have loved ones that do, and they're planning on sharing that food storage with you, that sort of thing. It's wise to have a plan, about this stuff. Very wise. Okay, in the event of a flood, get everything you can't live without. You throw it in your car, right? And you get to higher ground. So if there was ever a flood, Puget Sound, for instance, the second I heard that that was coming, the second the news was just like, oh, we got some stuff that might be coming, you pay very close attention to what kind of. It's the same deal with a hurricane. This is, I know, more the Gulf area. You don't mess around. If it's a hurricane of 4 or 5, yeah. If someone says that there's a tsunami warning, if that ever happens, that could happen after an earthquake, right? So earthquake and tsunami, flood, that's all, very connected. So you get to higher ground. You get your stuff and get to higher ground. It's all about taking flood, tsunami warnings very, very seriously. Hopefully you have a lot of gas. That's why you don't want to ever be low on gas. Some money in the bank, etc. Right? So you can kind of buy stuff afterwards, right? Sorry, this is just okay. Etc. what sorts of things to take with you. So I have some things just to mention, and you might want to get this ready in advance. Personal documents, journal, anything that you can't live without. That's like your personal stuff. It can include any projects you have, anything that you've done that you want to definitely preserve. Certainly your money and wallet and all that stuff. Anything that can't be replaced, or if you have, anyway. Phone and charger, of course. You need to be able to have that phone. Want to hopefully have it charged up. And cars have a charger, so if your that car battery is vital, so you can plug in your phone to that car charger. If you have a laptop computer, that's a great thing, especially put your backups on that laptop. Man, make sure that if you can get that tower, that desktop, or whatever, you can get that in your car. Let's do that, But that grand piano is not going anywhere. Just keep that in mind. Sorry. So there's some things that you just won't be able to bring with you, and just be ready for that. Furniture, no way. No, none of that stuff. Your valuables, certainly, like, the jewelry and stuff. Certainly food and water. And just whatever you can throw in your car, really. Some clothes, but if you have a whole bunch, this is why I don't think it's wise to have a whole bunch of clothes. Just, because by the time, how quickly could a flood get to you is the question. So time is of the essence. Not as much as in the case of a fire, but get some clothes in that car. And if everybody's in a different situation. If you have a family, a lot of kids, there's only so much room in the car, so you have to consider space in the car. Hope different spaces in the cars. Some cars have more, or vans, trucks have more room than others. So sometimes if you have more than one car, you and your spouse, might be driving different cars. So that's all up to you guys. But it's these are things that you want to be kind of aware of, I guess you could say. So of course, books and music and things that you just can't part with. That can be lower priority, but I guess what I'm talking about is something. I'm a composer, so I wouldn't want to part with anything. I want to make sure I have all of my original compositions, at least on my computer, handwritten stuff. I want to make sure that's coming with me. But if there's anything that you just can't live without, make sure that's But that starts to get into a lot of books can be replaced, so don't worry about that stuff too much. So definitely flashlight and batteries, first aid, some stuff. If you just don't know how to use something, you want to have things you can use. So whatever you have, that's like I don't know, tools or all the non-food stuff that's often said you need to have. You either need to know how to use it, or just it's just a lot of it's just because you only have so much room in the car for stuff. You might as well have a whole bunch of food and water there, in my opinion, rather than pack it full of all this crud that you don't know how to use half of it. So, yeah. Anyway, and then of course anything else that you can fit in your car that you'll need. Yeah. Anyway, so this should get the ball rolling at least a little bit. Get the gears turning. And I want you guys to come up with a better list. I want you guys to critique this to death. Because whatever you can do to be ready for any of these situations, the better. Whatever you can do. But what I'm trying to say is that you don't need a whole ton of stuff to survive. That's what I'm trying to say. And so there are people that are minimalists. Minimalists have the easiest time in those situations because they literally don't have hardly anything they have to bring. So if we, the more stuff you have, the rougher these situations are, especially if they're things that you cannot bring with you in a situation, and especially if they're things that are very expensive and they can't be replaced. And so, unfortunately, one of those things is like a grand piano. So, I don't want anybody who has grand pianos, that sort of thing, to ever be in a situation like this because, man, yeah. Anyway, and there's other things like that, but grand pianos are a good example of the $40,000 thing that just you can't replace, I don't know, very easily for a lot of us. So, big investment. Okay. So, in the event of a house fire, I'm sorry about the writing here. In the event of a house fire, it could be the worst case scenario because, again, if time is of the essence, this is the absolute worst case scenario where you probably have maybe only 5 or 10 minutes to get out of your house. If that, you could be in a bad situation really, really, really quick. You don't have a fire extinguisher if you don't know how to use it. So learn how to use a fire extinguisher, right? If you have one. I don't even think do we even have one? I don't even know if we have one here at my place. So I don't know. You just throw stuff out of the house that you need. Check out of the house only the most vital things that you'll need, like your food storage and emergency stuff. And so, personal documents, money wallet, phone charger, have everything backed up on a laptop computer. Any valuables that could burn. So if you have jewelry, keep in mind some of that won't burn. And if it's gold, it might melt, but it's still valuable. But if you have diamonds, I wouldn't worry about those things too much. I mean, if you can find them afterward. I mean, you know what I mean, like metals that just are much more resilient. I wouldn't worry about those too much. Certainly books that you can't replace. Books you can't replace that you can't part with. Time is of the essence. Fires like forest fires, right, outside the house, they are far more destructive than anything that can happen in the house. In those situations, all you can do is just get out of the house. And you might have everything just go up in smoke. I mean, that's probably the worst case scenario, is when you have a forest fire that is just boom, if you don't get out of the house, like right now, you're toast kind of situation. That's like the worst case scenario. And house fires can be avoided, of course, with if you're not negligent kind of thing. But if you ever do see a fire, put it out right there. Don't wait around. Get that thing taken care of right then and there, period. Right? In the event of a riot, this is where things can get dicey, but not necessarily. Keep a low profile. Do not attract attention. I repeat, do not attract attention. Be invisible. Hide your stuff. Don't let anybody know that you have anything valuable or anything that you need to survive. Be poor, right? So people talk about preparing for a purge a lot of times, online. 95% of people have no idea what that really means. Like a severe riot or purge, something where you have martial law and you have chaos and you have people killing each other and hurting each other all over the place. That we have just no idea. The only people that know what that means are people that have seen, like soldiers. Seriously. Nor are they or we psychologically prepared to kill. So don't go there. What I'm trying to say is, The Purge is a great movie. And I have to say this for myself. If you have a situation where everybody's going nuts, if you go outside of your house and you are like, I'm gonna go crazy, how long do you think you'll live before someone shoots you in the head? Yeah. That's what I'm trying to say. You need to keep a low profile. Do not attract attention. Okay. In the event of mass unrest, it's the same kind of deal, just worse, right? Plus, you have looting of stores. This is where you need to have your stuff. You need to have some stuff, right? So this is like, oh my gosh, could be the worst situation. I don't know, comparable with that. It could be really, really bad, ongoing, long term, stuff. And there's no food in the grocery stores, etc. That's worst case scenario, right? It's one of the worst case scenarios. Yeah. Could be worse than the forest fire because the forest fire takes everything you have. If you have a mass unrest, like you have a looting of stores, there's going to be literally no food. I mean, you'll have to go to church or welfare places, or you have to find food. That's really serious. You could die, obviously, right? Again, you need to be invisible, even more so than like a more regular minor riot type thing. Be invisible. Keep a low profile. Wow. Your food storage and water supply are vital, as is, of course, gas, your car, or access to gas stations, which is maybe not, to get to loved ones. So maybe you don't get the gas tank too low, right? This is also where the other emergency items that you have can be a lifesaver, but it all depends on if you know how to use that stuff, right? Know your plan well before things really get nuts. Honestly, food and water, and don't let anybody see it. And it doesn't have to be a whole ton of stuff. You know what you need to have, but again, it doesn't have to be a massive amount. But if you're single, it doesn't have to be a massive amount, right? It's just for you. If you have a family, that's where you want to, keep that stuff. I don't know, you have a bug out place or something, or you want to have a bit stored up. But everybody has a different plan. You need to know your plan and stick to it. Okay, if you take off, bring the stuff you'll need, like as if you'll never come back to that place again. Bring the stuff you'll need, plus important stuff, right? If you stay, you need to be smart. That means be invisible. Now, honestly, again, with weapons and with guns, people talk about that stuff, but no. Unless you are psychologically ready to kill, I'm including myself here, that's not going to happen, right? You have to be ready to kill. You have to be ready to use that gun. And if you kill somebody, an innocent person, man, that's what I'm talking about. So, it's not enough to be armed. You have to have it together upstairs. You have to know what's going on there. You have to have a plan. You have to be ready. And don't kill any innocent people that are just, too close to your property or something, right? Okay. In the event of a nuclear holocaust, being a little funny here, you're toast. Unless you have a bunker or all the gear that my aunt was mentioning that can protect you, hopefully. But, unless you have a bunker underground, etc. Probably not going to happen, right? You never know. Maybe it's a good idea to not live in extremely populated areas. Same deal with what? Riots, mass unrest, right? Hurricanes. Well, I kind of included that. The flood, the hurricane thing, it's pretty similar. Tornadoes, that's definitely more of a Midwest thing, at least in the United States. I guess there's, with monsoons, it's kind of more like a flood type thing. Avalanches, so hopefully that this is, if it isn't super useful, then hopefully it's some food to, it's some things to think about. Maybe you want to get stuff together. Maybe you want to organize what your emergency plans are when something does happen, because you never know what could happen. As I'm making this video, we could have a 10.0 earthquake. It's probably not going to happen, but you never know. Puget Sound, we're still waiting for something like that. I don't know when it's going to happen, but I don't know. Anyway, you guys take care. Let me thoughts and comments below. Talk to you later. Bye.